Welcome back to the channel, guys and girls. Thank you for tuning in. It is week 1, kinda episode 2 of my Runna analysis, or Runna experiment, if you will. You're here to watch me go through the first 10 days of Runna app and how I am looking at it through a coach's and athlete's eye. Oh, one more thing. Next week, I'm going to be giving away something for free, totally free, that is going to be based off what we see at the end of this video today. So stick around to find out what that will be. It could be very useful for you coaches and runners out there for your future in running. Without further ado, let's go join Tom running in the park.
What's happening, guys? I am in the middle of my run to on Runna, as you can see, which is a 10K. I'm doing everything by the book on this little challenge. I'm worming my way through the and the idea is I'm gonna stick. This was like no pace, decided. So my pace is very slow. I'm trying to keep my heart rate in zone 2, but I've just come back from Mexico and yes, I've not done anything for about 3 weeks. Particularly not ran, so blisters are happening, but we'll see. So obviously the idea around this little thing, whilst I'm jogging through this, what I said before, is trying to see what Runna is giving you as a user and putting it to a coach's eye. That particularly looks at what kind of runs it's giving you. Does it change? I don't know yet, right? Because obviously as a coach, you're going to be adapting as you kind of go through. You're going to have a few, change stuff based off heart rate, based off speeds, based off whatever. We're going to see if that happens. So watch along. I'm about 1.5K left. We'll see how we feel at the end. Alright. Run completed. Honestly, 10K. Obviously this, my settings that I put in beforehand. But 10K up the bat, felt quite tough. Very slow. Okay, heart rate. Had to break it down every now and again. Do go into a little kid and shuffle. But it's quite far. I don't normally write that in that far in the first week. So we'll see. Obviously this to do with building your race. Obviously past 60% of your heart rate. That's all the kind of thing you need to build up. Get those mitochondria working. So that's the benefit. Over to Tom back in the room.
We're back in the studio, I guess. Anyway, we're going to review those first 2 runs because see those were happening in week 1. I don't think we had the first one, but we had the second one that was easy runs. But yeah, this is a little show and tell of what's happening inside the app once we can kind of review. And over the next few weeks, we're gonna pair this with what's happening in some other fancy stuff, okay? So we're only gonna look at the data that Runna is giving me currently, okay? So we have our little weekly summary. This was the first run we did, right? So that 5.5K easy run. It was easy, conversational pace, all that kind of lovely stuff. And we can see the graphs, okay? It gives me my splits, gives me my pacing, gives me my elevation that I'm going over, which is pretty nice. The heart rate one is probably the main thing I'm looking at. And if we're honest, probably because it was quite hot that day and I was a bit excited to get going, my max heart rate went way too high for an easy run, as we can see from those heart rate zones, which wasn't the best thing to do. I do not recommend your heart rate going to 176 on an easy run. And then my 10K long run, like I said, I was surprised that they gave me that much straight out. I know I said I was an expert or advanced kind of runner, still going straight in. I took it very easy, very ploddy. This was warm weather. I think like perhaps in here it should give you the degrees of what the weather was doing that day, because I think it does tell you, because it will correlate with your heart rate quite often, which I'm going to say in a little bit, because there's one of the runs this week I purposely did at about 8 or 9 p.m. where it was a lot colder and I could keep my heart rate a lot lower because I didn't want this to happen essentially. This big old block in zone 3, not really doing much, this is where a lot of people stay, and it's not slow enough for us to be zone 2, so our heart rate's kind of working, so we're actually in fatiguing. So if we're down here, we don't fatigue as much, and it's not fast enough to make us any faster. So it's this kind of middle ground. It's fine, but it's not where we spend most of our time. So we either go hard or we go easy, depending on like stroke volume of what's happening with our heart, and if we're trying to pace ourselves for like our joints and stuff. But yeah, let's go see the next run.
We are dropped in the middle of run number 3 for week 2 in theory. Week number 2. Run 3, I don't know, making my way around the park is an 8k run. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it because I have a long day, but I'm also going a little bit quicker than last time, so we'll see. Alright, I'll see you on the other side, but 10k followed by an 8k run feels like a lot of volume. I think that is definitely to do with I put myself as slightly advanced, so we'll see. I'm pacing at 5:45 and I'm going to have to slow down because I'm not allowed to go below 5:50, so that's been good from a heart rate respect. Colder now than it was on the first one, so that's definitely it's okay to run at this time, but what has been good is keeping to that heart rate and under pacing, so I'll see you when I'm doing intervals. Good evening, y'all. It is run number 3 of the plan for the week. I think 2, 3, I don't know. Might actually only be 2, but this is the first tempo, speed, whatever run. That's what I'm doing. Rolling 400s at certain pacings. So we're gonna do a little pre. I think this will be fun. I've got a banging headache, so that's not good. I just bashed my ibuprofen before I came out because basically I had a day of looking at screens all day, which is not fun. Running around looking at properties. Record a couple of podcasts, so go watch those. At least, yeah, we'll see what's going on. So this is pre-rolling 400s. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to keep that pace up, but we will see on the back end. Yeah, I'll give you a review on that in a little second. Yeah, wish me luck, I guess, because I'm going to need it. At least it's a nice sunny day. England is beautiful. Okay, run done. Me walking up these stairs very slowly is not testament to how hard that was. It was actually okay. Just that sway. You see my times right here. I'd say it was pitched pretty well, Runna. That is absolutely great. The only thing is, I'll throw us back to top of the room. It's my Achilles. A little bit tender, so that'll be the interesting thing to do. A little bit of Achilles work going forward. One issue with the strength plans, is it personalised? Back to you in the room, Tom.
Ooh, the first fast run. That's what we were all waiting for. A little bit more my wheelhouse, if I'm honest. That one, enjoyed it. It was quite fun. The rolling 400s, I decided to go for a weird route on this as well. And like, there's a 1k circle where I live, and I was just going around that like constantly, which was, my wife thought I was insane. But yeah, it's almost like going on a track. So this is exactly what we had. 400 at 450, 400 at 530. Okay, something that I would plan, which is good. Kind of like, so you've got up tempo and low tempo kind of running, and you'd go between the two, perhaps. And this is quite a big variation, but these would be between up tempo and probably zone 3, give or take, and that kind of resting period. So this was quite fun, hitting the targets and seeing this on the back end, making sure I hit them. And you can see, I was like, by the end, I had more juice left. I was like, I think I can go faster for these two. It's only 800 meters where I can gas it out a little bit. I was hitting my zones pretty easily. The first one, I was obviously like, this is the interesting one. When you're going to hit a target pace, and I haven't done a lot of running for a while, it's hard for your body to adjust to exactly what you're trying to achieve, okay? So that is one of the biggest things that I found quite tough going in, trying to hit my pacing straight away. Then I settled in, and then I was like, screw it, let's go. Right, I'm gonna do 800 reasonably hard, where we went hard and then backed off slightly, but it wasn't a total back off. And then I think these were just like walkings. Right, I enjoyed this. This was very much thinking about my running. I had to think about being a little bit taller, think about more pop, essentially hitting my foot down a little bit harder. And yeah, it was generally okay. It was a little bit more fun, essentially. But I don't know, this is fairly irrelevant, if I'm honest, because this is just telling me which one it's like, yeah, it's going to be quicker. I was doing the roll-ins and this middle portion, but I don't really understand. There's not much point to this split unless I'm looking, especially on the interval training, essentially, or these tempo trainings. There's not much point to it. This pacing chart is a little bit better, so we can see that pacing where I was going up and down and up and down, seeing like a max pace, which was fun. Elevation didn't really matter because I was elsewhere. I don't know, what did it show? Yeah, this was kind of what's happening, because I was going around a hill on the circle, and essentially it just goes up and down, which probably wasn't the best, but it was okay. And then heart rate. We're not very worried about heart rate. This was very much about now learning to run to pace, which if you don't have much data and you haven't done a test, it is a little bit hard to do. Okay, running to a pace and picking those pacings out, you're kind of like, that'll be okay. And then you can run to heart rate to adjust those zones, which would be a good thing. But if you're able to do like a threshold test or like I do an augmented 12-minute test, or you could do like a FTP test or something like that to adapt power into your pacings. Those are the things that you'd have to go and do. It's not made me do that, which is very interesting. I would have thought maybe in the first week it might make me do an augmented like mile pacing, like go do a time trial. Let's go set a target for 1 mile, just see how far you can run in 5 minutes, for example, or something called a maximum aerobic speed test. I would have thought that maybe something like that is what I would do as a coach to work out pacings a little bit more specific to the person is at that current motion. They have trusted me and gone, I think you can do these pacings, but I don't know whether it's mapping it out to the heart rate as well, because in theory it should have slowed me down because of my heart rate was way too high on those easy runs, right? But even I was hitting those zones. Heart rate zones, fairly comfortable. I think I click through to the cadence work, okay? So max cadence of 188, I was pretty much around here. Ideally we're somewhere between 160 and 180 with our quick cadence. I'm a little bit slow and ploddy, if I'm honest, because I've got quite a big gait, but yeah, we're all good. All right, let's keep rolling through these 400s and we'll summarize the whole week in a minute.
As you can see, what a day. We are plodding along at 135 to 150. We are on a 5.5k easy run, which is I'm taking very easy because I didn't manage to train the last 2 days, considering my step count was about 18 and 20,000. My work count was at about 20, 25,000. And there's the house that I live in. Obviously, where is it? Let's see, somewhere there. But I'll slow down a little bit because training feels alright. I think there was a little bit too much volume in the first week, so hence I had to skip a couple of days. But that means I've got a 10k long run tomorrow. I don't cram that in the morning. That's the general thing. I feel like straight in volume has been too high. So over to Tom in the studio.
Okay, and there we have it. Half of 1 week and week 2 complete. I was feeling pretty good, if I'm honest. Everything was ticked off. I did have to move one run. There was meant to be 4 in that week 2, but I moved one around just because life happens. And yeah, it was all right. We get this little summary at the end of I will show you is, so we just get quantifiable data, blah, 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 blah. I was feeling all right. Kind of the bare minimum for intensive progress is like 3, right? We're looking at an easy run, kind of a tempo-y quick thing, and then a long one, okay, to build mileage. And then we have to kind of start to run that if we're truly honest. But this is what we're going to go into next week, okay? I'm going to give you an example of stuff that I would do, stuff that my clients do who are regularly setting 10k PRs, marathon PRs, 5k PRs, and match it up against what is happening in here in terms of just looking through the strength bits, and we're gonna scroll along and we're gonna have a little update of like why perhaps this is the area that you coaches that are watching this is where you can set yourself so far apart from what this can do, okay? So this is the ideal and base of what it kind of gives you. So clamshells, bear crawls, lopsided squat with actual walks, pogo jumps. Just from looking at this simply the wrong way around in terms of like exercise selection. It's not in the right order, I would say. Exercise selection again in terms of this is what strength supersets, which is fine. Supersetting I do lots of, only 2s, which is crazy. And I'm going to give you way more comments and probably lay into this a lot harder next week, okay? Which is very wonderful indeed. But what I will say is, from this perspective, we do have another little look into some different things. Okay, so we have these two kind of graphs that we can kind of pick up. So we've got a graph of my fitness. So this is in Training Peaks, which I'll show you each week and by week in terms of how it's progressing and what's happening throughout here. Okay, so this is taking stuff straight from my Garmin and how I assess clients and use the data in here. Okay. So far, good little start. Not displeased. I like everything inside it. It's like a good solid 8 out of 10 in terms of application. I do think perhaps it's starting me off too hard. The S&Cs will be interesting to look at, and I think you'll be very interested in the future what to do to look, well, whether we can change them in any way. But good overall start. I'll see you next week and we'll be deep diving into those strength sessions. And will I make any progress?